Okay guys, bienvenido de nuevo al canal. And in today's video, we are going to be removing the intake manifold from my BMW N52. I did say to you, I've got a lot to do on this BMW 6 Series, and going forward, I need to rectify a lot of common problems that can happen on this 6 Series. Because as I said to you, I want to make this a very, very reliable car that I don't have to do nothing fault coming up or going forward in the next year or years coming up like I did just with my E60. So today's video we're going to be removing the intake manifold, and I'll explain more when we remove it, purely because once I remove it, we've got a lot to do underneath there. It's not just going to be replacing the CCV. I need to do other few bits under there as well. I need to clean up, and there's other things I've got to replace that are common problems, which I'm going to be replacing because, as I know, they do fail, because they did fail on my BMW E60. So no more speaking, let's get on to removing the BMW N52 intake manifold. Okay guys, so here we are now with the BMW N52 intake manifold, and now many of you guys remember how many times I've actually done this, how many times I've actually removed it, and to many of you it scares a lot of you because, to put it blankly, lo hago para hacer fácil, which, as many of you guys in Spanish will know what that means. If you don't, in English, it basically means that, you know, in layman's terms, that I make it look easy. So lo hago para hacer fácil means I make it look very, very easy compared to what many of you would think, you know, because obviously when I do it, as many of you guys know, I probably got the fastest N52 video, intake manifold removal video on YouTube. So, you know, it scares a lot of people and intimidates them because of how quick I actually remove it. Now I'm going to try and go as slow as I can on this one to try and let you guys follow through clearly to see how I remove it, because as many of you guys know, my E60 one has been removed many, many times over the course of the 5 years I've owned it. So everything's just easy to remove, but on this it's never been removed. So it's going to be quite jammed in there. Nothing's going to have been touched. So it's going to make it harder to remove. The CCV pipe's going to be harder to remove. But you guys will get to see everything from scratch, how we're going to remove it. Now, of course, it doesn't take me long, but I'll be explaining in thorough detail how to remove it. And as many of you guys know, I know this engine better than probably anybody out there, and especially removing the manifold on this car. So I'll be able to point you in every direction how to remove this easily without breaking anything or getting anything mixed up. There's a couple of things that many people miss and end up breaking them when many of you have contacted me. Your car hasn't been running right. It's because you forgot to either unplug a sensor and you've broke it because you didn't see it, or you haven't plugged something back in correctly when you put the manifold back in. That's purely because you probably didn't know where the plug was and you've ripped the plug connector out. So that's something I'll be showing all of you when we start removing it. So no more speaking, vamos. Okay guys, so if you can see here, the first thing we're going to be removing is the airbox, and I'm going to be showing you how to do that. But obviously, if many of you are Spanish here or English, and if you do understand Spanish even just a bit, I wanted to ask many of you guys, and this is going to be in Spanish because obviously I want many of you guys to be able to understand exactly what I'm saying. If you don't understand English, de better hablar en inglés o español, because I want to know if you want basically me to speak in Spanish from now on going forward, or English. Now, I don't know how many of you understand. You may be from other countries, you might not understand Spanish, but obviously if many of you don't know, that's my native language. That's why I know many of you always say to me about my English isn't very well when I write, but obviously when I write in Spanish is completely different, and I don't express my words clearly. That's because, as I said to many of you guys, English is not my native language. I had to learn that over the course of years when I was brought over here. So I just wanted to let many of you guys know why my English isn't very good, why my words do not sound the same as when I say certain things. Many of you can't correct it or say things about it. That's the exact reason why. But I know many of you are very ignorant, and many of you can't speak two languages, and not like me where I speak Spanish fluently, and I've had to learn English over the course of many years of being here. So please bear that in mind when you want to start saying that I don't say this correctly. What did I say? Did I say this? Did I say that? That's purely the reason why, because English is not my first language. I'm very proud of where I come from, very proud of my country. And obviously I've had to learn this, English, but Spanish is my native language. And there's not many people that can actually say, who's watching this, that can speak two languages fluently. So obviously the first thing we're going to remove is this air box, and obviously, as many of you guys know, you've got two Torx 30 bolts down here, which are located, one here where I'm pointing and the other one down here. I'll try and shine the camera down so you guys can see it. So you'll see one here where my finger is, and there's another one at the back here, and then you've got your flathead screwdriver Jubilee clamp that you need to undo and push the air intake hose off the air box. So we'll just go ahead and remove these two just now, and don't lose these. They're not very tight anyway because they bolt down to a rubber washer. And we'll just take out the MAF sensor plug. As you would have seen, I've just disconnected that. Then we're just going to unscrew the throttle body boot that goes onto the airbox, so we can, and then you just use a flathead to prise that off. It should come off very, very easily, just like that. And if we put that to the side here, we should be able to pull this out, just like that. And that's the airbox out. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take this boot off from the throttle body. And the one thing about this, why it's not easy to see me to be able to do it, is because the Jubilee clip, I can't remember, it's facing towards upside down, so it's not easy. So what you have to do is remove all the wiring harnesses off the holding clip, which is basically connected onto the manifold, and it faces downwards. So to get to it, you basically need either a 6 or 7 mil socket, and you need to just basically angle it in there to try and turn off this boot, and it will come off the throttle body. Once that's actually off, you've got all the extra room to work on everything else under there. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. And the easiest way I've always learned is to try and put your hand up the back here and then get your socket onto it at the back and just unloosen it. If someone has been in there, you will always know, because the clamp won't be excessively tight, where someone didn't either they forgot to tighten it or they couldn't tighten it, and this one wasn't excessively tight. You just got to keep maneuvering it with the ratchet, and just use a 6 mil. I strongly advise using a 6 mil because you won't get this off with a screwdriver down. And you can see when it sits on the throttle body, it sits at this angle, so it sits like this. So you think of the throttle body boot like that, that's the angle it sits at. Like that, so you can see it's quite bent, so you can't really get a screwdriver down there. Easiest way is a 6 mil socket to get over it. Now we're going to have to remove our DISA connector. You're going to want to use a pick, just pull out the connector there. Then you've got your throttle body connector, which you just want to slide off, and this is held on by a bracket here, which is held on by all 10 mil bolts. When we take off the throttle body, we're just going to disconnect that. And the main one you guys need to remember to disconnect is one up here, which is always hidden under these, which is your map sensor, which a lot of people forget it's even there, and then they snap the wire for it or the plug because they don't see it. And this is very common. So I'm just going to try and egg that off, just like that. And that's the plug off. Do remember to take that one off, because people do forget to take this one off right here, and then it's the one they end up snapping when they forget it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the throttle body bolts, which there's 4 of them. These are 10 mil. We'll get them straight off very, very quickly. They're quite long. You can't mix them up. So we're just going to go in. You can see where my hand's going for everything anyway. Just down here, down here, down here, and down here. Now, there is all holding brackets on these as well. I didn't have these on my E60, but I can see them on here, on this throttle body. Don't know if BMW started putting these on. You can see the bolts that I'm pulling out now. They're quite long. All the bolts there that I've removed. You could see just down here where I was removing them, but you can also see that connector possibly just up here. That just stays connected to it. I'm not going to take that out, but this should budge out now, just like that. And you can see the space now we've got now. The throttle body's come out. Probably going to change that gasket as well, so you can see all the oil inside there as well. It needs to be cleaned up. It's quite sludged up with oil, which means CCV needs changing. You can see in there, it's quite bad. I'm going to be cleaning that out and everything. Throttle body gasket probably needs a new one as well. Do remember the throttle bodies and these are self-calibrating, so they calibrate as soon as you turn ignition on. You don't need to do nothing. Next thing we've got to do is get this this plastic thing off, which we're going to need to try and use a screwdriver. This is for the plastic harness, which we're going to have to try and prise it off, because what we didn't want to have to do is take off the 2 Torx bolts, because to rebolt it back up really isn't simple in the amount of space that you got. So it would have been easier just to remove this. You probably can't see it there, what I'm trying to remove, because the power steering unit's in the way. But I'll show you in a second what it is I'm trying to aim for. So down here, this is what I was trying to remove, this junction box. And I've managed to remove it by just lifting these plastic pry tabs up, as you can see, and taking it off the holding bracket. And it's now worked because there's 2 Torx bolts that hold this bracket to the manifold. But to remove it, it's a bitch to be able to put them back on because of the back area there. So it's easier to get this off, and it's very, very easy if you know how, which I've done it many times. So now I've just got it off so that I can leave this wiring harness dangling while the manifold comes up, so I don't have to try and reconnect that after. You just literally have to prise them up. They may be a bit stiff due to the heat, and plastic going brittle, of course, with heat. But after that, you should be able to prise them off very, very easily. Once that's off, what I'm going to be doing now is I need to try and release all the connectors here for everything, for the valve and everything else down here. So to do that, I need to use a flathead and a pick to try and do this. Just like that, that's one out. Then you've got your PCV heater that you need to release it as well. But to get to that isn't so easy, purely because the PCV heater plug isn't easily accessible down there until you lift the manifold up. So you need to lift the manifold up and then do it. So that's what we're gonna do. I just need to make sure everything's now been detached from down here, which is what I'm checking. The only thing we've got left is the purge valve solenoid, which I'll be disconnecting in a second. Just trying to get to it from under here. Again, I will show you all this, where everything is. Or you can go and see my video for the wiring harness diagrams. That's now been disconnected as well. And obviously you've got a breather that goes to here as well, which is to be disconnected from the purge valve, which has just been disconnected. And it runs up to the top here. So you've got a breather that runs down here to the actual purge valve. So it comes from the fuel tank to the purge valve down there, which I'll show you all after we get the manifold off. So right now we're gonna just take off all the bolts for the manifold, which I believe these are all 11s. So with my 11mm impact gun, I'm gonna try and remove them all. Just like that. And you wanna lift up the lambda sensor plug. And you don't wanna whiz them out too much because of the nuts. You just wanna basically free them all off. Like that. And there is going to be one under your CCV pipe as well that you will have to remove to get to it. Just like that. And then what we're going to do is I'm now going to take out every bolt individually. And again, I'll put them in my tray to keep them safe. It doesn't really matter at this point, because if you drop anything, you'll be able to get to it when you remove the manifold anyway. But it does matter when you obviously put it back. But you have a much clearer view of everything while down there. You're going to see everything. And then that's all the bolts out. So you can see here you've got 4 normal bolts and you've got 3 nuts. Now, next thing we need to do is disconnect the lambda sensor plug, just like that. You can see there I'm pulling them up because these are going to have to come up here, and you've got to take this out and drop it through, as you won't be lifting the manifold anywhere. Next thing we need to do is we need to go over the back here, and we've got to disconnect the pickup pipe from the CCV. Otherwise, which literally snaps off as it does because it's all brittle. This is what I mean. Everything needs to be changed on here. And we're just going to pull up on the manifold, just like that. Before I even lift it up, like I said, I need to take the PCV heater off, but I've got everything ready to go. The PCV heater's down there under the manifold. Just need my little pick to be able to remove it. I'm going to look at it from here. I just take it out, just like that. Then we're going to try and take the manifold up, which now it should come up because nothing's in the way. We've just got our little torque screw over the back here on the manifold, which is right over the back there, which holds the fuel line onto the manifold itself. Nothing massive and nothing hard to get to. You can easily get to it with torque 25. Remove that off there, and this is the bolt you're looking for. It's like a T25, and then you can just start removing your manifold out of the way. And there we are, guys. Intake manifold off. Now, as you can see down there is a lot of crap. A lot of stuff that needs to be tidied up, a lot of stuff that needs to be rectified. You can see all the oil, which has been getting into the manifold. It just needs an absolute huge cleanup down here. The plugs are everywhere. Everything is just everywhere. Yeah, there's a big oil leak. All oils come out of the manifold, which is down here on the CCV. You could possibly see oil everywhere down there, all over the starter motor and everything. Yep, oil has come from everywhere. There was oil all inside the manifold, which is what I expected. It was getting oil into it. You could possibly see it all down there. It's leaked everywhere. It's all down the block. I'm gonna have to clean it up everywhere. This is what to expect, guys, from an M52. What oil's sucking into the intake, and this is from the bad CCVs. This is why they have to be changed. People say they don't have to be, but they do. Because of this reason, they are catastrophic, and you can see all the oil everywhere down there in the engine bay. It's literally all down here. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but yes, you can see all the oil literally everywhere down there where it's come out the manifold. This is all new oil as well. It's just everywhere. So that goes to show you why to replace your CCVs on your M52 engines. So there you have it, guys. That is now the BMW M52 manifold off, and we'll be doing other videos replacing a lot of things on this engine before we put the manifold back on. The main thing I'm going to be replacing is the starter motor, purely because I know they fail. My 60s one did it on about 169,000 miles, and it ended up leaving me stranded in a petrol garage to the point I had to change out the whole starter motor while I was there. The following day I left it parked up and had to go back there and change the starter motor. That was not fun at all. That's why you guys would have seen me when I took the manifold off the 60 before I built my garage. Had to do it all again for that reason, to reconnect everything that I didn't fully reconnect because I just wanted to get it home. That's one thing I'm definitely going to be doing, is the starter motor, because as we all know, they go out and that's not leaving me stranded again. We've got to do the CCV. I know I can make this look very, very easy. And I also know the junction box electronics can really look intimidating, especially if this is your first time doing it, because there is a lot of wires and people get mixed up about where they go and how they go back. Don't be scared. I do have a video explaining where every plug goes back on the junction box electronics for the M52, and I will link it above for many of you guys. If you do get lost and don't know where everything goes, you can follow that video to replace your manifolds, and in that way you don't get anything mixed up, because a lot of the connectors look exactly identical, especially if you pull out the crankshaft sensor one. That one looks identical to a disvalve one, and so on and so on. Then the CCV heater system looks identical to the PCV heater plug. It can really get confusing, and that's why I did that video specifically for that reason. So the next video we'll be seeing is us replacing the start motor and doing the CCV as well. Okay guys, so as you've seen there, I've now removed the BMW M52 intake manifold. And as I said to you, there is a lot we're going to be continuing on doing on this car. As I said, bearing in mind this car is only on 110k, and it's already got oil going into the intake manifold and being burnt off, which isn't good. The CCV has failed. And this is what I mean. I know there's a lot of you out there who say that I just make you replace this, make you replace that. But bearing in mind, this car's only on 100K and the CCV already needs doing. And this is what I try and tell a lot of you guys all the time. I'm not doing this to make you spend money. I just know these parts fail at this mileage and you guys are gonna be driving around the same. Like that intake manifold in the throttle body hole itself is full of oil, where oil has been getting into the whole manifold. And this is exactly what I mean. We're gonna be taking the discs off as well to make sure none of them are getting jammed, which is also letting oil in as well, because they should be shutting for the oil to go back through. But if they don't, they're gonna be letting oil back into the intake manifold. So I need to check them to make sure they're not sticking either, otherwise we'll be replacing them as well. But like I say, guys, this is what I mean. The N52 can get expensive, but especially around the 100K. That's why when you do buy one, make sure all these jobs have been done. But like I said, this is one of the reasons why I'm taking my time doing it, because I'm not in a rush. I'm not using this car now, that when I do use it, it's gonna be perfect. I told you it was burning oil and I could smell oil being burnt off and I didn't know where it was coming from. It may have been the valve cover, but that's now been done. It now could be coming from the intake manifold where it's being burnt inside there also. So there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And like I said to all you Spanish guys as well, gracias por ver, which basically means the same thing as in English, which is basically thanks for watching. If many of you guys don't understand. Like I said, on the next video, you will be seeing me doing a lot more on this N52 engine. So if you haven't subscribed, please do already, because there's a lot more to come. Thank you very much for watching, and gracias por ver. This is BMW Dr. Dean here, and goodbye.